Hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday's The Coffee Run Live. Hope you're all fantastic and awesome. It is Friday. I don't know about you, but it is feeling a little TGIF. Gotta tell you, I'm so excited. I don't know what, just letting you guys come on. Hopefully, some of you will be joining me on this fun Friday, Fresh Hair Friday. It's called Fresh Hair Friday. Hey, Jeanette. Good morning. All right. Who else is coming on? Say hey when you come on. I can see there's some more people, but I can't see your names. And I am going to just share this over. Hey. All right, let's get this shared. Give me a sec. Rocking the animal print again today. Like, I put a post up yesterday just saying I'm so glad that the rest of the world has finally caught back on with the fabulousness that is leopard print and animal print. It's just like, I don't know why it's taken so long to come back in, to be honest with you. So happening right now, I'm just putting a post over on my thing. When I say thing, I mean profile. All right, there we go. Okay, cool. So here I am in the room. Let's go. How are you? Let me know what you're celebrating today. Fridays are a really awesome day before we kind of get stuck into the content, which I think is an interesting thing that I've been looking at with clients and things like that. But before I get into that, what are you celebrating today? What is awesome in your world? I think very often, and it will tie into actually what we're about to talk about, all too often these days we can kind of get caught up in the doing and the push and the hustle and like I'm not here yet, or I'm here, or I'm doing this or whatever, and we forget to celebrate. So share with us what you're celebrating. I am celebrating, I'm home this weekend. I'm actually home this weekend for the first weekend in what feels like ages. I'm also celebrating that we've got some people in the It Factor, which is really great. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. I'm celebrating, what else am I celebrating? Coffee is really great. Celebrating hot showers and being able to wash my hair. Yeah, that makes me very, very happy. Very happy. So, all right, let's get cracking into it. So as I posted yesterday when I was reminding you guys that we're on this morning, I think one of the things that's really super interesting is around this thing about, particularly when we're launching, right? When you're launching something, when you're when you're maybe promoting a workshop or an event or a course or a book, it can feel like, well, most of us go into it feeling like we're going to get really great results, right? Even if we don't know how it's going to play out. It's like, yeah, I want 50 people to do this. I want 10 people to do this. Just this number just kind of like feels right. And then sometimes the reality of what actually comes on in doesn't necessarily match up with your expectations. And I guess there's a couple of things here that I've seen play out over the years, and I've been kind of like processing through my head this week around, well, things didn't kind of work out the way that I would have wanted them to. Sometimes what that leads to is the inflation of results or the downplaying of results for whatever reason. And I guess the crux of the matter is that we're worried about what other people are going to say or think. That's really the crux of the problem to me. It's like, well, you know what, if you're saying that you've got this number of people in your program, or you've made this much money or whatever, then that's not actually the reality. Then that's where people can tend to overplay, over dramatize, talk up results. I've seen it happen a lot. And then the other side of that is seeing people kind of like downplay it for whatever reason they might do that. And I suppose some of the reasons that people might downplay their results is because, number one, maybe they don't want to help people with that. Or number two, they're just kind of really, a bit not nervous is probably not the right word, but maybe they just don't really want to talk about it, right? I don't know if you've ever noticed or if you've ever seen this. I know for me, in different situations, people will say, oh, it's been so good. Like, we've seen you on television. We saw you in Smart Company. We've seen you in Business Insider and Money Magazine and, whatever else. And it can be like, yeah, that's really great. But, just whatever. It's just kind of normal. And we can kind of downplay it. And for me, the reason that, depending on the situation, for me, it's a little bit like, if I'm in a room and I'm talking to you guys, and like sing it from the heavens and it's no problem. But put me in a place where it's kind of like mums or not mums, you know what I mean? Like people that aren't necessarily related to the marketing of my business or like the clients that I might work with, it kind of feels a little bit like, oh yeah, it's just that thing that I did. And it almost feels embarrassing to kind of talk about it. So here's what I want you to do. Like whether you are really, kind of like nervous about talking about your accomplishments, or whether you're at that point where perhaps it's kind of like, oh, you know what, I kind of took this up and it really sort of didn't really work, right? So the things that we need to do first and foremost is you need to own it. So a case in point or an example about this. So you guys know I've been talking about the It Factor. I'm so excited. I was like, yep, we can have 20 people in there. It feels like it holds the space for 20 people. It's going to be great. I've had some conversions. I've had some conversations about it. We've got some clients signed up, which is really awesome, but it's not the volume that I wanted. And it's like, wow, you know what? I'm not teaching people necessarily how to get out there and sell something like that. I'm not talking about how to sell masterminds from live streams. I'm not doing the thing that I'm selling, if that makes sense, right? I'm not saying, hey, I've just gone and lost all of this weight. Let me teach you how to lose weight, right? I'm not teaching that. So, really, I guess for me, what I was analyzing earlier this week, it's like, all right, do I feel bad that I haven't got the number of people in there that I wanted? Yes. Do I feel like there should be more people in it? Fuck yeah. Do I feel like was there any kind of sense of shame? And it's like, well, actually there was. And then I've had to do some journaling around, well, why did I feel like that? Who had the expectation or who set the expectation that there should be 20 people in there? Well, only me. There's other programs that I've launched this year where it's exceeded expectations. Like it might not have the hundreds of people in there that I know we'll have in there eventually, but they're like the right people are in the programs. And I guess that's the thing. So we've got to decide, okay, like, are we willing to own our results, whether they're good or whether they're bad, like whether you're making money in your business or whether you're running at a loss. Now, you can still be running at a loss and making money, right? Just because the business is operating a loss doesn't mean that you're not actually bringing money in. It's more about your margins and this, that, and the other. So I think the big thing here, the first thing that I want you to do is really own it. Own the results that you're getting or not getting. Don't overplay them in your marketing, and also don't underplay them in your marketing. Like I was having a look at some numbers yesterday, and the truth of the matter is like I've made more than 4.7 or $4.8 million in revenue, since running this online business. That's freaking amazing. It's like, why don't I talk about that more? And I think partially it almost ties into some of this media stuff. It's like, well, you know what? It's kind of like, yeah, it's just, I don't want that to be the reason that people buy. It's a great thing. It's a great achievement. But that's where I'm almost giving you some of the advice that I need to take on. And it's like, well, we've got to fucking own it. You've got to own your wins, your losses, your experience, your knowledge, your strengths, your assets, the failures. I wouldn't consider necessarily this latest launch a failure, like with the It Factor, but it certainly hasn't panned out the way that I'd planned or the way that I'd wanted it to. Which kind of leads into the next thing, which is, well, do you talk about your failures. And I think that it's actually important to do that. Maybe not every single thing that you fail at and everything that's not working, because you can sound a little bit like you're landing square into, like that victim, persecutor, rescuer kind of triangle, which is never good. If you're coming in going like, oh my God, this didn't work and this didn't work. And, if you're looking for someone to rescue you, then that's not cool. We don't want to do that. But you've got to own your results and then make the decision about whether or not you talk about them or not, depending on what industry you're in and depending on what you do will be like the guidepost around that. The second thing, or the third thing actually, that I think is super important is around making sure that you're like, what are you expecting? Right? Are you expecting that things are going to bomb? Are you expecting that things are going to work? Are you expecting that things are going to go beautifully? Are you expecting to sell out that room? Are you expecting to sell out your program? Are you expecting to sell out all of your one-on-one coaching spots? Are you expecting to have a bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list? What are your expectations? And whilst I'm not a fan of saying, wow, you've got to set realistic expectations, if you're a brand new startup mode and you're like, all right, I'm going to do $1 million in the next 12 months, then, is that a fair expectation, or is it something that you're setting yourself up for success or for failure? And is it resourceful or is it unresourceful? Jeanette, own your results, be proud either way. Yeah, exactly. What we do gives results, no doing, no results. Precisely. And I guess that leads us into like the next thing. So we've got own it, make the decision about whether you're going to talk about it or not. Make sure that you're assessing your expectations, around, is it resourceful? Are they resourceful or unresourceful? Are they motivating or are they demotivating? Because I know for me, so not back to the $1 million a year mark yet, and like working to get there, which is really great. But instead of going, all right, from where we are now to saying, all right, I'm going to be back at $1 million a year in the next 6 months, break it down into something that actually feels achievable, right? Hey, Dari. So for instance, if I remember being, when I started my style business, trained as a style and branding coach, and I would be working with people who wanted to create a really great personal brand online with their visual appearance, right? So, and how we could use that in your marketing, and I started doing that like many years ago. And the delivery was all online and things like that. And I remember thinking when I was chatting to the very first program mentor that I bought into about this, and she said, oh, so, what are your goals? And I'm like, wow, you know what, really, actually, I just want to replace my corporate income, my corporate salary. So $100,000, more than $100,000 a year, I'd be super happy. And she's like, okay, cool. But I didn't set my first milestone to be $100,000 a year. I set it to 50. I'm like, yep, that's where I'm going to. But that just feels like, I can't even imagine how I'm going to make $100,000 in my own business. Like that just felt like, it felt like I would need to be Tony Robbins. Yeah. So it's just like, all right, well, what does feel realistic? How can I make the numbers work for me? And I brought it back. It's like, all right, well, if I can make 50 grand, I'm going to be happy. And then made 50. And then it's like, all right, now let's double it. Let's go to 100. And it's like, okay, cool. So we've got 100. Let's go to 250. And then you hit 250. And it's like, all right, let's go to 500,000. Then you get to 500,000. And it's like, let's get to 750. And then from 750, go to $1 million. And, so on and so forth. I haven't made it past $1 million a year yet, Mark. So I can't talk about what happens with that. But I think it's really important that we're setting an expectation and perhaps a goal that it make it so that it feels like it's just one step rather than being 10 steps. So a lot of people, because a lot of people can get overwhelmed. Because it can just feel like it's just so far out of your reality and just so far out of your realm of possibility that it's more debilitating than inspiring. So have a think about that. The other thing, so the fourth thing that I'd encourage you to do is go, okay, well, once you've gone through stuff and you're looking at your results, it's time to do an autopsy. So the way that we do an autopsy is you go, all right, what worked really, really well. Like what worked brilliantly in that launch that you did, or in that campaign, or in that webinar, or in that workshop, or whatever it might have been. Like, what did you do? If you were playing roller derby, which I do, you look at, I looked at in the last game that I played, even though I got absolutely, I felt like I got slaughtered. It was just ridiculous. Yeah, I was disappointed with like the result. I was pretty disappointed with how I played, for a whole load of different circumstances. But when I was able to logically look back and actually autopsy it and go, all right, well, what did I do well? And then what could I do better? Right? So it's not what did I do really shit at, like what didn't work. It's like, well, what could I do better? And the thing that I know that I could do better in that instance is be a little bit more like a bulldog. Chase, and trust in my own strength and trust in my own ability and build up some freaking muscles. So you do the autopsy, what worked well, and then what can we do better? Or what can we do differently next time? How can we amplify or accelerate the things that have worked well and either change or let go of the things that didn't, and do things a little differently? And then it comes time, it's like once you've done the autopsy, it's like, all right, you've got to get back into action mode. You actually need to do something about it. Because otherwise it's like that quagmire of ness is the official word. Like, I don't know how I'm going to type that in an email when I share the live stream with my database. It's like but that quagmire of yuckness. If you're not then taking action, particularly if you've been disappointed, like with a result, I guess that's the main angle with this. If you've been disappointed, or if you feel like, oh, I could have done so much better, then you've got to take an action step to get out of that. Otherwise, that quagmire, that unhappiness, that blurtness kind of becomes bigger and almost like a little or a big typhoon around you, and just keeps sucking you into that vortex of self-doubt and shame and demotivation and shitness. Like, let's be honest, it's just kind of like this big pile of shitness, and you just get deeper and deeper and deeper into that. And then when you're trying to claw your way out, the longer you've been sitting in there, and I think we all need to sit in there sometimes, right? But you've got to be able to flick a switch or click your fingers and get out of that, because otherwise it becomes really insidious. And that's the thing that then starts to ripple into other areas of your life. So you've got to take some kind of action, and you've got to be disciplined around it. Okay, so if you're really excited with the way that things have gone, then you still own it. You can make the decision whether you talk about it or not. The next thing that you're going to do is set your expectations. You've still got to do an autopsy of it, right? So even if you've met your expectations and you're happy with your results, or you've exceeded your results, you still need to autopsy that, because I can guarantee you that there are still things in there that you did really brilliantly, and there's also things that you could possibly do better or do differently in order to get up to that next level again. And then we keep going. So whether the result is good or bad, whether you've got to walk through those processes. The main thing though is to not get caught up in ego. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things for me. It's like, oh my God, we've got 3 people in the It Factor, which is really freaking awesome. If you still need to be in there, message me, by the way. You've got 3 people in the It Factor, and they are extreme badasses, right? Absolutely freaking amazing people. And one of the things, I guess, that I was kind of like, it's like, oh my God, there's only 3 people in there. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to talk about it. It's the last day. Maybe I shouldn't even, blah, 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 blah. Because there's a little bit of, I've already half done the autopsy in my head. And it's like, well, I could have done this a whole lot better. This worked really well, but I could have done this a whole lot better. And it's actually, I guess the thing here is that we don't want you to measure your self-worth on number one, you don't want to measure your self-worth on the amount of money that you're making or the amount of clients that you have or whatever. But then the other piece of that is we've got to make sure that you are not overplaying your results, as in making them seem bigger than what they are. But you also don't want to downplay them either, right? So you're the only one that has an emotional attachment to your results. No one else has an emotional attachment to your results. Like, nobody else is like, I mean, you guys might be excited for me, but there's no, or sad for me, like depending on what's going on. But really, no one else has an emotional attachment or buy-in to the results except for you. And really what we want to look at doing is, particularly when it comes to money, is we want to be able to sort of step back from that emotion and look at things in a logical manner, still be excited about it, but really look at it from an analytical, almost business perspective. So I was having a chat with a friend of mine earlier today, and she said, you know, I had this option and it wasn't going to serve me. And so I just had to say no. And, you know, normally in the past I'd have this emotional charge. And she said, but it was just kind of like really factual. It was just like, no, this is not happening and this is what is happening. So we want to be able to look at our content, our results, our sales, our money, our expenses, our income, our energy, like all of this from a place of emotional detachment when we're trying to analyze or decipher what it is that we're going to do next. Otherwise, we tend to make knee-jerk emotional decisions, and often that just doesn't work. And then that can lead you into feeling like a failure, or like, you know, you're feeling ashamed of what you have or haven't done. And I think we just need to kind of eradicate that. You know, shame doesn't serve anyone. Disappointment, you know, sitting in disappointment for an extended period of time doesn't actually help you get out there and help the people that you're here to help, right? So own it, decide whether or not you're going to talk about it, make sure you've got very clear expectations and that they aren't too far into the future, do your autopsy, and then get into action, all right? So there you go. That's my little sermon for today. Happy Friday. I am going to go and make a coffee because I feel like I didn't have a coffee for the coffee run today. I've just got my water sitting here, which is really good, but I'm going to go make a coffee. If you've got any questions about this, let me know. I'm really excited. I am starting the It Factor today. So if you do need to talk about that with me, then let me know. Just message me and like we'll have a chat about whether it's right for you or not with where you're at. What is super exciting as well is that we are on at 11 a.m. every day except Tuesdays. Starting next week, Tuesdays will be at 9 a.m. and I still haven't decided what the theme of that Tuesday is just yet, but it is going to be something fabulously fun. It will not be called the coffee run. I will let you know what that will be. A lot of the input that I've had from you guys, and from some other people that I've been talking to as well, is just that I really feel like I need a commitment in my schedule, you know, in order to know that, right, I've got this that I'm showing up for, this is what I'm doing, because I hate to feel like I'm letting anybody down. So for me, I've decided there's a few different things that I've put back in place in terms of structure, which I'm really excited about. So one of those things is doing our regularly scheduled shows at the regularly scheduled time rather than it being kind of like off the cuff and a little bit ad hoc. So I will chat with you guys all over the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the LinkedIns and the YouTubes and the websites and through my email list. Have a really amazing weekend and take care. Get out there, go help some people, have fun doing it. Be visible, and most of all, be you. All right, I'll talk to you soon.